Oh wow, is that an eclipse? Okay, man.
What a beautiful Monday morning. Good morning. It is Monday, January 21st? January 21st, 2019. It is Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. It would be remiss of me to not speak of him and to talk about how important of a man. So I just went on a whole 15-minute lecture about him. But I'm gonna just say a few words and I'm gonna get to what happened last night. Cause y'all probably what y'all do last night? So I'm just gonna talk about what I'm just gonna talk about Dr. King. And so Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So you have Georgia with young Martin, and he had depression issues. He tried to kill himself, but he was also been a really great orator like his dad. So then when he went to Morehouse, and of course his first year, he didn't really want to be a preacher because how sometimes when you're a teenager, you're okay, I want to be a little bit rebellious. And that's what he was doing. But he still ended up majoring in the same thing that I'm majoring in, which is sociology. With sociology, you still have an understanding of, people and trying to reach people and different groups of people and different cultures and histories and belief systems. And so his first year at Morehouse, he wasn't doing well. Then Reverend Dr. Benjamin Elijah Mays, if you look up his track record, he doesn't get enough credit for anything, but he brought him to the side and he was like, you need to, I see something in you. You're incredibly smart. You're so intelligent. You can reach people in a certain way that nobody else can reach people. Your smile, your voice, all that. And it wasn't in no weird way. It was just in a very okay, kind of a passing the torch type of thing. Dr. King got serious about his classes and he stopped partying a lot. So just wrapping it up, when you look at Dr. King, his family aspect, you look at the different levels of him, you talk about the childhood Dr. King, talk about undergrad Dr. King, talk about master's degree, talk about the theology school, theology school seminary, you talk about his relationship with the white girlfriend, and then Coretta, and then having children, and then you have him going to Boston University, which is where I'm in Boston right now. So you have him going to Boston, which is the same place that Howard Thurman graduated from and gave a whole bunch of lectures and stuff out here. The great mystic, the great theologian. You just ponder, you just think about how influential this person was in terms of not only the creativity and the inspiration and the motivation that he had when he had spoke, but also just his actions in terms of how he delegated with Kennedy, and then how he delegated with Lyndon B. Johnson, and that whole thing. When you talk about different things that he did in terms of marches and advocacy, calling different people, getting funds for the civil rights movement. You have things him turning down money from different institutions, him not being liked from different liberals and conservative people that were from certain places, even a lot of black people that believe in the talented Ted aspect. He really wasn't even liked by them. He's still here. He still lives within us. That part of you that really wants to serve other people and to understand and to listen and to love other people. That's the legacy of Dr. King. Dr. King's legacy is not only just having a dream for black people or a dream for people that are in the middle class, but all people of all nations, of all colors and all creeds. People that are technically all belief systems, so that they can all come to Christ and then be saved through the power of Jesus Christ, so that they can go to heaven and all that. And so that's what Dr. King really believed in. And it would really be remiss if I explained all of that and really just gave him his just due the best way that I can as of right now. I don't think that people really talk about how important he still is. People want to just talk about I Have a Dream speech, but you have to talk about sermons that he gave. Conservatism, we talked about Marxism, we talked about Plato, Socrates, he talked about, there's so many things. Even when you talk about my favorite sermons, which is the 3 Dimensions to a Complete Life, he's so much more than just one speech. He's so much more than one idea. He had so many more ideas. And I don't think it's fair when we talk about people like Plato and Socrates, when we talk about people like Malcolm X and Marcus Garvey. There's so many different perspectives that they had on certain issues. But when we talk about Dr. King, all we talk about is like Vietnam and like the dream that he had for people to come together. That he has so much more to bring to the table. So please just go on Cliff Notes or something, go on Spark Notes or something, go on like another YouTube video and like look up who he is, what he did, his perspective on certain issues that you like and you agree or disagree about. Things like voting rights and women's rights, human rights, things like education, things like slavery, mental slavery, physical slavery. All those things Dr. King was talking about in the 60s. He wasn't silent on those things. And it's our job and our responsibility to take up our cross and be leaders, to lead with a confidence that we can change the world. People all around the world have had histories of just overcoming different obstacles that it's just impeccable. It's just unimaginable. Like just the diseases and the things that were going on in terms of, you know, different ways of life, different roles that people played, different laws that were put in place. Though the progress we have made over the course of all this time has been immaculate in terms of technology, in terms of relations between different countries and all that. Now that's hard to say with this president, but I'm saying in general, in terms of like the course of history, we just made so much progress. It's been so immaculate, so incredible. And you have the opportunity to just go on your phone and you can look up stuff for free. When if you're like a minority 40, 50, 60 years ago, you can literally be like go missing for doing stuff like that. We have came so far in like the past 50, 40 years, literally. Like it's just so incredible. And so you have the opportunity to language for free on your phone. You can look up everything I'm saying about Dr. King for free on your phone. You have to go to a whole library. You have to like give up your lunch and give up like, I don't know, like sex and alcohol. Like you don't have to do all that just to learn like one or two things. Like you can just literally do all that on your phone. And so of course, like the too much access thing really makes people like complacent and lazy. But the beautiful thing is that's not you. Like we're not gonna do that. So you just gonna go on your phone and look up all this stuff. I strive to have the same hope and the same mindset that Dr. King had left the earth with, because he didn't necessarily, I don't think that he necessarily, I mean, he physically died, but he didn't die because he still lives within people like me and people like you. And so have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay encouraged, keep your faith, keep striving, keep believing in yourself. Like you can do anything. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't do something. Like history has proven time and time again. Look at Tom Brady yesterday. Like Tom Brady again, OT, they call heads, then it's heads. The defense was like, we're not even tripping. I took an Uber home. There's like a white couple in the back. They're like, yeah, like they bet all their money on the Patriots as soon as it said heads, because they knew like they was gonna win. And so with God we have the victory. Don't stress yourself out to the point where you don't be an advocate for somebody else. You don't do what you know you're supposed to do in order to fulfill that purpose that God has given you. And so Dr. King's purpose on this earth has been so many different things. I hope that you got something from this. I hope that I have blessed you in some way. And enjoy your day. You have anything to say?
Except that you forgot to say what we did yesterday.
So what we did yesterday was we went to Mr. and Mrs. Gurley's. Went to Mr. and Mrs. Hurley's house. And Mr. and Mrs. Hurley, literally, they've been friends with my dad for the past approximately 48 years. 48. Like that's a lot of years. His wife is such like an artist. She's a creative. She's a teacher. She's a spiritual type of person. She's very unique. And in a good way, like not in like a bad way. People say unique like it's a bad thing. No, in a good thing. And her husband, Mr. Hurley, there's just some people that just critically analyze everything and question everything. And I don't really blame them, because there's some things in life that you can't find the answer to. And you really want to know the answer. I think that man has a history of doing that. Like not just European history, but just in history across, even like Chinese history, Japanese history, different African cultures. I don't think that science answers all the questions that we have. Mr. Hurley has a perspective that is not necessarily bad. Like, I don't think that it's bad to question a lot of things, but I do think that it can be detrimental to your happiness and to your joy in your life if you just question everything that you've ever known, because you'll get to the point where you don't trust anything, you don't trust anybody, and so you don't want to get to that point. And so I think that you should have a healthy mindset of having some core beliefs that you believe in, and that's unwavering. And then you should be open to understanding different perspectives so that you can have a more developed perspective on certain issues and certain topics. That's why people go to school. That's why I'm a sociology major. That's what I think of when I think about that man. But he's incredible. I mean, we was gonna go to Ruth's Chris, and we had ended up staying there, and like I was like, is this food gonna be good? Well, did you think that the food's gonna be good? No, I'm saying before. Did you think it was gonna be good?
I thought it was gonna be good. I thought it was gonna be good. I thought it was gonna be good.
Man, the food, man, like, first of all, what was there skin on the chicken? No. There was not food, there was not skin on the chicken. I'll put like the insert of the video of my food. Huh?
I said I was just eating.
It was so good. She wasn't looking at her food. It was just good. But we had chicken with some like vegetables and stuff, and noodles with the broccoli, and she put like, what was the third thing? Salad. We had some salad. Yeah, we had salad. We just had a wonderful time fellowshipping. The house that they have is so impressive for Boston. Like, you don't see a lot of big houses. I mean, from what I've drove around seeing, and from what Sadara has told me, like the fact that they have a backyard, the fact that they have such like a big house is like very impressive. And like, not to say like the money thing, but it's like what was in the house. It was a home. You know, there's like a lot of houses out here, but not only was it like physically big, but it was also even bigger in terms of like the love and the understanding, the camaraderie, the bonds that were actually in the actual home were very rare. It was very rare. Check this out. Like, they even had the Quran and the Holy Bible like right next to each other on the bookshelf. Now, you don't see that in a lot of houses, and even like a lot of libraries. You don't see that on like a lot of bookshelves, and that says a lot. Like, people that read, people that see a lot of bookshelves, people that see even like pictures of a lot of bookshelves, you know what I'm talking about. Usually like that, those things are separated tremendously. It's just seeing that, and just seeing other things that were in the household, things that were on the wall, things that were on different shelves, all the records that they had, really just showed who they were. And so it's a representation of how they looked at life, how they looked at other people, how they looked at different religions, different cultures, different mindsets, different beliefs. And so I don't think it's bad. I think that it was very unique, very important. Really wonderful couple, man. I definitely do not regret at all choosing to stay at their home for hours rather than going to Ruth's Chris. Y'all probably saying,
oh, well, they're like a little old couple and you could have went to Ruth's Chris.
Like, no, like, trust me, it was definitely worth going. Before that, we went to the church service, Lighthouse Fellowship, which is in Quincy, Massachusetts. And I forgot the specific address. You want the specific address? 73 Newberry Ave. They have service at 10 a.m. every Sunday, right? Pastor Mike is really wonderful person. I recorded the sermon on like audio so that I could re-listen to it on the plane. Sorry, something in my eye. Pastor Mike did a wonderful job letting God use him.
How to play layman's terms. So he basically talked about...
Sadara just informed me that what I said earlier about what he said. His sermon was basically just about the world has these expectations and this belief system, and it's almost counterintuitive and contradictory to the path that God is. When you're following Christ and you're following what God is telling you to do, God is creating you to be, it's not gonna be something that the world's gonna be like, yay, and like cheering you on. Like, no, like it's gonna be against what the world is telling you, because the world is, it's the world. Like, I shouldn't have to go further than that. Within that, you're becoming a leader, right? Because if you're just in the world, you're just following everybody else. Like, you're just following what man is telling you to do. But with God, God is not a specific, you know, gender, bigger than human capacity. God is bigger than, like, we can't even fathom the breadth of how immersed God is. Like, God is just way above our heads, right? In terms of like totally understanding what God, but like we do know certain things. But anyway, when you're following that, you are becoming a leader so that other people can follow you to the point where they can follow what God has for them. Okay, like when you're like walking in the street and everybody that you meet, that was a bad joke.
No, it was alright. Not bad.
So when you're walking on the street and people are like, hey, so why do you have that cross on your neck, or why do you have that thing around your wrist or something, and you're like, hey, so, you know, it basically just means that, you know, God, I don't know, like, exists, and he's like wonderful, and you should come to my church, or you should, you know, you should just like read into who he is, you should really read into what I believe. So like, this is what I believe, da 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 da. And a lot of people will probably just say, that's cool, peace. Some people will try to argue with you like, oh, well, that's like the white man stuff and da 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 da. But some people will actually be interested. Like, I have like a whole, I won't say people's specific names, but I have like a whole coworker who literally for a whole year, here and there, I'll talk about the sermon that I learned, what I learned from different sermons on different Sundays. And for a whole year, I worked under this person at my place of work. And then one day he was just like, you know what, I'm gonna just come to your church next week. And I was like, are you though? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. So he came. He hasn't stopped coming since. There's one thing about being in the edifice, but it's also about being open to learning. Because some people just go to an edifice just to go, or just to go because like their family is going. You have to go with the heart of fellowship, praising God's name. We are the church. Like, we bring the church to the edifice. Like, the edifice is not a church without the people in the church. How do you say it? He had to come prepared, gone through a lot of certain things in his life. And I wasn't even trying to say, oh, well, you know, when you look at Genesis chapter 2, it's like contradictory to Genesis chapter 1, verse 5. And then, like, I wasn't even like doing all of that. I was just listening to him, listening to his perspective, and just came to him with a loving heart and said, you know what, I think that it would be really nice if you came to my church. And he was like, nah. And then a few weeks later, he was like, you know what, I'm gonna come to your church next week. Yeah, I was really like kind of meditating on it, or thinking about it, pondering, praying on it. And I was like, yeah, like I think that I'm gonna go ahead and scoot over there. And then I was like, okay, bet. Just you being a nice person, not even trying to be deep, not trying to be somebody that you're not. Follow what God has for you and be a leader in the world. Mark chapter 12, verse 1 through 12. It's like the proletariat and the bourgeoisie type of thing. The Sanhedrin Council, who has a lot of authority and a lot of power in terms of their influence, in terms of the rules and regulations, in terms of their interpretation of scripture, things like that. When you're in certain positions, be careful with how you go about talk to and deal with the least of these. People that are not privileged, people that are going through certain things and that don't have a lot of confidence in themselves, people that may be going through something that you don't even understand. You have the responsibility to come down and say, you know what, we can see eye to eye on this, and how can I help you? How can I show my love to you? Like, how can I help? How can I serve you? Of course, like, you can't help everybody. Even Jesus had like the 99 and he went back for that one. So you should just go back for that one person that you know needs help. If somebody that's in your life, or somebody that you know, you should at least try. And sometimes that works. I'd rather take sometimes than take 0%. It's kind of like some of y'all dudes be trying to like holler at shorties, right? And when you're hollering at shorties and getting shorties numbers, it's like, okay, well, okay, so like just because you don't get the first shorty's number, that don't mean like you just stop asking shorty for the number. Like you just gonna keep shooting, like shoot or shoot. So you gonna keep shooting to get girls' numbers. That's how you should be with, like, how you gonna be a whole Christian, but like you over here shooting shots with shorties, but you're not shooting shots to save people's souls. Like, I don't understand. We have dominion. We are a chosen generation. You have so much that you can offer to the world. You have so much you don't even know. You study all these other subjects, right? You study physics, chemistry, sociology, psychology. You study biology. People study everything. People even study like different arts and paintings and drawings. People study philosophies. But when's the last time you had actually studied yourself? When's the last time you had looked at yourself and said, you know what, these are my likes, my dislikes. You know what, this is something that I've been rejecting, and this is something that I need to give recognition to and need to understand so that I can get over it, or it's something that I need to understand so that I can tap into it and actually use it for the benefit of the glory of God. Look into yourself and say, you know what, I am special, I am beautiful, I have a purpose, I have a destiny that is beyond where I am now, wherever level you're at. And so we always have work to do until the day that you leave this earth. There's always work that needs to be done. I already said my goodbye, so I guess I'll see y'all later after I get off the plane, and I guess I'll do a wrap up of like the whole trip. All right, so see y'all later.